So I want to ask you today about falling off the wagon with training, why it happens, how people can stop it happening again, and what to do when it happens. So, as far as I see it, I think there are probably four major reasons people fall off the bandwagon. So, let's start with busy periods in life.
Well, I don't have a lot of sympathy for this one because any serious person who votes and pays taxes, has a job, is going to be busy from time to time. So this whole like I'm too busy to train. You're not. You're fun. It's a lie. You're lying to yourself and you're lying to me if you say that. So you think about it. It might be the case that what the training that you're doing or the training that you want to do is too much for your schedule. So, for example, when I was working rotating shifts, I desperately wanted to train using a powerlifting methodology by a guy called Paul Carter, who writes the Lift Run Bang blog. I think he's Instagram now. I don't think he updates his site anymore. But yeah, I wanted to do one of his powerlifting based programs, and unfortunately, I was quote unquote too busy to do that because I was often too physically exhausted and mentally exhausted to hit the weights that the program would call for. And I mean, I tried it. I gave it my best shot, but I did have to can that program after about 3 weeks. Great program, brilliant program. One of the most logical I've ever run from a purely theoretical perspective. But at that point in life, I couldn't train that way because I was quote unquote too busy. However, I didn't just stop training, throw my toys out the pram and stop training altogether, like a lot of people do. I just moved into something more flexible, which was actually something of my own devising that allowed me to train around those particularly busy period of work for me. And then that was an approach I broadly followed for probably about 3 years. So that's the too busy issue. It's not really an issue. It's an issue of attitude more than anything else.
And if you have already fallen off the bandwagon because of being too busy, pick a program that's sustainable when you get started, right? Simple enough advice.
Yeah, badly put, but yeah, that's pretty much what you want to do.
Cool. Second issue, then, that I don't think you can. Oh, well, I'm sure you've got some advice on mitigation, but what about with an injury?
Go see a doctor and do what the doctor says. That's it. That's all I'm going to say on the matter. I don't discuss injury.
Fine. Then, third one is lack of progress.
Lack of progress. Well, firstly, what are your expectations? Yeah, because if you're expecting a dramatic transformation in 12 weeks or less, or, to put 30 kilos on your bench in 6 weeks or something like that, well, then obviously you're going to be immediately frustrated by a lack of progress because neither of those things are possible unless you're injecting who knows what into your veins in terms of performance enhancing drugs. And even then, it's probably still not going to happen. So, first one would be what are your expectations and what you're going to get from training? Like, I think it's perfectly normal for people who've been lifting specifically. I'm not really. My attitude towards cardio isn't really conducive to this discussion. But certainly, as far as lifting is concerned, I think it's totally normal for someone who has been training with discipline and intent for kind of 12, 18 months or so, following a program of barbell based lifting, to stall out for months. You know, my bench press. I mentioned bench press, didn't I? My bench press didn't move for 4 and a bit years at one point. Just didn't move. Couldn't move it. No matter what I did, wouldn't go up. And it, you could say, well, that's a lack of progress, but then you need to look at everything in aggregate. And actually, no, I was improving in other areas. So, you need to maybe have a little look at where else, if the main thing that you want isn't happening, well, maybe you need to adjust else or look at what you're achieving elsewhere because that's just how it goes. Training, it's tempting to believe that progression is a straight line from zero to the Hathor Bjornsson, but it's not. It's a wiggly graph with lots of plateaus and dips and occasional quite swift boosts in performance that level off and then drop, and then that's kind of the track that you're looking at. And it's a graph with a what's the bottom axis, Jess?
X.
Yeah, the x-axis is measured in decades, not years or months or anything silly like that. You look at it in terms of decades where your performance is at, and you'll find actually this lack of progress that you feel that you're experiencing isn't actually a lack of progress in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
But obviously, if that makes you want to quit, then you should grow up a little bit and just stop being and accept that progress is going to come a lot slower. Again, don't throw your toys out the pram. Just stop training because you feel like you're not progressing. Because in all likelihood, you probably are.
Yeah. Cool. Then the fourth one is getting started again after a layoff, like a holiday or time out for some other reason.
Oh, well, the secret there is don't stop. Just because you've gone off on a holiday doesn't mean you should stop training. There's always something that you can do, even if it's a simple bodyweight workout in your hotel room. I mean, we went to Butlins a couple of years ago, didn't we?
Hmm.
And what were we doing? Well, we did some basic bodyweight work and running around the length of the site. And you didn't do any bodyweight work, did you?
No, I just did
You just
laps.
run. I mean, I did laps and a little bit of bodyweight work in the hotel room, and
Mm,
that kept me ticking over. So there was never a stop. I knew the holiday was coming. Don't have surprise holidays; they're not really a thing. So you can plan for them,
yeah.
and then you just take a week like that. And it may not be what you're doing in terms of a specific program, but then if you're planning on doing something like one of that powerlifting style program I mentioned a few minutes ago, if you wouldn't plan to run something like that over a period that you know that you're going to go on holiday, that would be done.
Yeah.
So you would be doing something more flexible, something more intuitive, and then it's just a case of you know doing what you can with what's available to you. And then so I hear some holiday destinations have full on gyms, Jess.
Mhm.
In which case we would never need to stop, would you? So really, my solution for stopping training over a holiday is kind of don't stop unless it's a planned rest week. And if it's a planned rest week, then the normal rules apply, don't they? You either pick up where you left off or you ease yourself back in by taking a deload style protocol, something like that, just to make sure that you get back into it that way. So yeah, that's again a bit of not really answering the question in the way that you would like, I suspect, but
No, no, it's helpful. I don't have any more questions about falling off the wagon, but do you have anything else you want to add or think people would find useful around this topic?
yeah. Generally, what happens to make people fall off the wagon is none of those things at all. What it is that they quite earnestly get an idea of a goal in their head that they really want to achieve. They really want to lose weight. They really want to get jacked or whatever, and then they decide to go all in on that. I've heard that phrase. I want to go. I go
Hmm.
all in on my training. I've heard that phrase so many times from clients where they've struggled in the past, and it's
Yeah.
that specific language. It's quite interesting, and so they do, and they train really hard. And they make decent progress because you do make decent progress when you train really hard. But then what happens is um, it all gets a bit too much and they start maybe dropping reps here and there, having to take shorter runs, skipping workouts altogether, and before they know it, they have those little dalliances become a week off, and then they've stopping training altogether. And then they stop the training altogether, they lose all their results, which is rubbish, really, because it's generally weeks, if not months, before they are back into training again. And then what happens is they decide to go all in again and train really hard. Generally, when on kind of the second, third, fourth, fifth time around, actually is where injuries start to happen too. Because when they decondition and they try, there was a guy I started working with about a year ago, really top bloke, who was still with me actually, and one of the first things I gave him my 2 and 2 based on the work of the Weight Loss Manifesto,
Yeah.
and it's also in the free book that people get when they sign up to the basic version of it anyway is in the free book that people get when they sign up to my list. And part of that is obviously the one or two cardio sessions. And he was like, "Yeah, I'm going to do." And I said, I started him off. I said, "Let's start off doing like a mile." He was like, "No, no, no, I'll start off doing the 5Ks or whatever. I'm a good runner." And I was like, "Well, when was the last time you actually went running, mate?" And it was a long time ago, and
Yeah.
he gained a lot of weight since then. And I was like, "Look, you can't go all in on this. You need to just ease yourself back in, um, by picking a distance that we know with certainty that you can manage at a pace that you find comfortable. That's not going to be overly taxing." And it wasn't long before he was back up doing his 5Ks or whatever. He runs further than I do now, which to be fair is not much of an achievement, is it, Jess? You do sometimes. Um, so yeah, so and it's a pernicious cycle. It really is, and that is people's training life a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So most people's experience of training is that the cycle I just described, and I think there's a couple of reasons for it. One is the message that a great body is just 12 weeks away, which is the underlying message of pretty much every fitness product or service that gets marketed, isn't it?
Yeah.
They might not say that out loud, but that's the substance of what's being said.
Yeah.
Hence, you get people. If you just work really hard, you get results, and then, oh, yes, Lily,
Sorry,
that's
she's
right.
joining in.
Um, yes, there's that, and then there's the other side of it, which is this idea that um, training somehow kind of stops
Yeah, that's
at
something
some point.
I used to believe, didn't I?
Yeah.
However, consciously, that I'll
Yes.
just fix myself and then I
Yeah,
can
I'll just
stop.
I'll just fix it and then I can stop. I mean, it's kind of related to the point about a great body being 12 weeks away, isn't it? But
Mm,
I think it's distinct enough to be addressed
I
by itself.
agree.
And yeah, so people kind of are aiming to work towards that. So they take a programmatic approach. And there's nothing wrong with programs. I love programs. I prescribe programs all the time. I've written how many of them?
Mm,
So many of them. But what you need to do really is to work programs into an underlying methodology, philosophy, and approach
yeah.
that's of your own devising that works for your own, your own life and stuff. So you take something proven, based on proven foundation, and then you tailor it to your own circumstances, which is incidentally what I teach people to do in all of my work, whether
Mm,
it's a book or whether it's working with me one to one. That's what we do. I'm not a fan of just giving people programs and saying if you just cut and paste this and that will happen. No, it's about equipping with the tools to be able to navigate all of the issues that we've just spent the last 10 minutes discussing for sustainable results, compounding results, even actually, because really you make modest progress. You just follow the system, you
mm,
get a little result, most weeks, and then over time that compounds into something really cool,
yeah.
like a pension. So anyway, I'm done talking for today because the baby is getting annoying because she's moving now in my field of vision. Beautiful child, Lily, but not the best podcast guest. So yeah, if you like the video, which you will have done if you're still listening, like the video on the YouTube. I'm told it helps. Subscribe to the channel as well if you like. But better than that would be to subscribe to my free daily email newsletter, where you'll get the book I've mentioned a couple of times, which includes one of those sustainable systems that you can tweak and adjust and adapt to your heart's content. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that it's like all singing, all dancing, or anywhere near as detailed as what I give people who pay me money, like in my books or my coaching clients. But there's enough there for someone who can use critical thinking to
Yeah,
get moving in the
absolutely.
right direction. Jess likes it too. And you do that at the URL on the page, which is on the screen rather, which is philtimon.co.uk. And then there's a big box saying subscribe to newsletter. If you click that and then put your email address, oh, you know how to subscribe to a newsletter. You're not stupid. All right, that'll do for today. Speak to you again soon.